welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au, and I have with me the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls, Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone for joining our program. It's a great pleasure to be co-hosting today's show.
Yeah, this is part 8. I can't believe we're actually here now. We're part 8 of the documentary of Beethoven Symphony Number 4, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions Worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls, and produced by Architects of Music.
And I want to thank everyone very much for this incredible collaboration, which has been driven by our shared passion for connecting musicians and audiences with real-time musical performances, live programs, and music films coming to you from around the globe.
You hear how Beethoven delights in throwing everything off balance, ready to slip into chaos, and then with a stroke of his pen, he restores order. Now with more hemiola, earthbound and heavenly. And that rollicking triad theme closes out the main scherzo. Beethoven, musical master of the universe. Incidentally, this hemiola device, the quick alternating between rhythmic groups of 2 and 3, it figures prominently in a couple of well-known traditional ethnic dances that are built on this pattern. The Spanish dance, the polo, alternates between 2 groups of 3, yumpa, yumpa, and 3 quick groups of 2, dumpa, dumpa, bumpa, like so. Anyone who knows the great musical Man of La Mancha will recognize this authentic polo rhythmic pattern. Or in Bernstein's West Side Story, in America, same pattern. Groups of 3 and then followed by a shorter group of 2. That's the polo rhythm. But there's a famous Czech folk dance, the Furiant, that reverses this pattern. The 3 groups of 2 come first, then the 2 groups of 3. So we have 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3. Yes, check out Dvorak's thrilling Furiant scherzo from his 6th symphony. Hemiola that Beethoven used so brilliantly to disrupt his symphonic world has direct parallels to these folk dances of which Beethoven was probably aware, certainly the Czech Furiant. So now, with all of that to ponder, here is the entire main scherzo from Beethoven's 4th Symphony. And now the structural middle of the scherzo, the trio. Beethoven marks it a bit slower than the main scherzo, providing a nice sense of relief from the near chaos we have experienced. And the trio has an unmistakable rustic, nature-like character, and a gentle, graceful woodwind theme, like so. to which the violins respond. These little nature sounds. The woodwinds repeat the tune now, but starting with 2 eighth notes, like so, and the violins will imitate them, like so. And these fleeting nature sounds begin to grow organically. Now again with the lowered G flat, yes, and this fragment now expands into a tranquil stream of sound, almost like the flowing motion of a river, without getting too picturesque here. And the rustic woodwind theme now returns, and we're swept along with this joyous country song, mit Schwung, with hearty swinging motion, and what clearly sounds like the old cuckoo call of the Austrian countryside. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. I don't know, it's a descending third. That's what a cuckoo does, right? We'll hear him again, of course, in the Sixth Symphony. That's certainly what it sounds like here. Here is the entire trio. And the entire scherzo proper returns, as is the custom. But Beethoven does something else new and different here. He repeats the scherzo from the top as required, but then he also repeats the entire trio, after which the scherzo proper is heard again. So instead of the traditional 3-part structure, scherzo, trio, scherzo, we now have a 5-part structure, scherzo, trio, scherzo, trio, scherzo. This may be the first time that this was done in symphonic music. I'll have to check. But Beethoven will now use this expanded 5-part structure in all of his future symphonic scherzi. And at the very end, a little surprise, a brief hunting horn call. The rustic horn fifth that we've discussed, bringing yet another fascinating, complex, and revolutionary symphonic movement to an end.
Well, bravo, Larry. Thank you for that.
Yes. Thank you for
That was
wonderful
fun.
insight. Yeah, it was fun. The cuckoo was my the one which made
When
me
you
smile.
first played the beginning of the trio, I was like, "Oh, this sounds a little bit like Brahms." And then he does and then Beethoven does a blum blum, and then the sort of little birds calling. Like, okay, it's not Brahms at all anymore. But it has this very pastoral sounding, loving and warm sound, and then he intersperses it with all these things. And I kind of hope that's Beethoven for you. He never really does anything you'd really expect, and the moment you think he's starting to sound like someone, it's like no, it's always
No.
purely Beethoven.
Yeah, absolutely. He has the signature. And I love that other thing about Beethoven, and Larry points it out just so delicately and so insightfully. The humor. There's
Yeah.
always, just as you think Beethoven got dead serious, he throws in curveball of some humor, some humorous element, either resembling cuckoo in here or
Yeah.
something else. Yeah.
Even the sort of darkness to light of this scherzo, especially when you have the diminished arpeggios and all that, but then how it resolves with this, hemiola, and then it's just bum 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 bum. It's as if, okay, don't worry about it. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Don't worry about it. And I think there's something very refreshing about it, which can tell you probably a lot about what Beethoven was like. It's that yes, he might occasionally get a bit upset or he has a quick temper, but then in the end, it's like, don't worry about it. It's okay.
Yeah,
And
let's have a beer mug.
yeah, exactly. And I wish people, I don't know. Do you think people that you can tell a lot about somebody's personality from the way they compose, the way they even play? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wouldn't say you can tell all about the personality, but you can tell quite a bit. That's for sure. And yeah, it Beethoven's music makes it so makes his personality so accessible and so revealing. I believe so. I believe the personality shines through everything he does. Yeah, and his perception of grandeur and just like you said, oh, don't worry about it. That just was a pretense, or
Yeah.
it's not everything. Yeah, and down to earth, and with peasant boots, dancing and striking the beat with your heels on the ground, and the songs which he collected from folk and from pops and everything. That and put it in a series symphonies. Yeah, that says a lot about his personality. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you find this to be, when you're teaching a piece by Beethoven or something, and you realize the student is playing it in a certain way that it's different from how you conceived of it, and I wonder, do you think there are different versions of Beethoven that people exhibit? They might because there's so many people who've recorded these symphonies and sonatas, and it begs the question, why do we want to hear another version? There must be, is it true to Beethoven, or is there many truths? I don't know. What are your thoughts on these sort of things? Because we are studying Beethoven and his personality and his temperament and how he structures and puts things together. Having said that, we're not him, and so we're not playing it as him, but we're trying to stick very closely to it, and yet there are always these little nuances. What do you think about this?
Well, the one question out of a bajillion which you just put on the table.
Yes,
really
choose one. Or two. You're allowed one or two.
One definitely strikes a tone for me is, why do we need to hear another Beethoven? I think we just don't. We don't need any of it. But musicians want to play it, and people want to hear, and we all love live music, and that determines it. We hear Beethoven because it's great music, it's fun to play, it's fun to listen to, and recreating it, resurrecting it again and again on stage and various settings live. It just is so much fun. We're never going to give it up, and I think that's the main reason why people want to play it again and again. And yes, I'm sure everyone, myself included, when we play Beethoven music, I mean, I can only play it on piano. Yeah, I would like to play it in my own unique way, but in the end, it's just a tiny difference, a pebble from everybody else, and it really doesn't even matter how different or the same it is. It's the great music which speaks for itself. So.
I like that. I mean, I always, my answer to that is always similar to why do we need to hear Shakespeare's plays or any of the great plays, or why do we need to remake all these different movies or different texts? Pride and Prejudice for Jane Austen's been made into many movies, many TV shows and stuff, but yet we still want to come back to it. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's.
I think it's the fundamental difference between need and want. I don't think we need any of it, but we want it because it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I like that. I think that answer really gels together with the whole spirit of this movement as well. It's
Yeah,
really, yeah.
and I want to mention that the title of the movement is Scherzo, and we haven't talked much about what Scherzo is, but well, Chris, maybe you just go on a limb and talk a little bit about the Scherzo and what it means.
Well, my impression is that it means a bit of a joke, that there's very joking element to it. Although there is structure, it's still in three, so it's born out of this idea that we need something before the last movement that's in three that represents a bit of a dance, and there's sort of this quick thing, like a almost an intermission or intermezzo sort of thing before the final movement, and usually it's the case that you have had already two significant
Heavy duty.
yeah, what are the statements of reality, statements of the world, and especially with Beethoven's symphonies, this universe. There's something that's very concrete, and it's part of his philosophy. And then you need something to just break the ice a little bit and say, "Hey, everybody, let's have a nice dance." It's the same for when we did the Beethoven Fifth Symphony together. And when the third movement has this idea that, okay, let's just have a palate cleanser and have a bit of fun. Let's maybe tell you a joke. And Beethoven's jokes, I mean, they're not what you normally would think of as a joke, but they hit. It really strikes the iron properly. And so that's basically what it is. And subsequent composers after that have been inspired to do very similar things with their third movement. I don't think that structure has really changed since I think Beethoven solidified something that has been universally taken on. And you may get certain changes here and there. Sometimes a scherzo comes in the second movement, and you have the third movement being this long and beautiful largo adagio, perhaps, and then. But it's just switcheroo, as we call it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's right. That form is just so all inclusive and so harmonious. The five part form where things episode and then it comes back and then the episode and comes back, and it's just so rhythmical and organic. It was adapted. Excuse me, by the composers for the one practical reason it works.
Yeah, I think a lot of the composers, especially during and after Beethoven, you have a lot of famous conductors who also were famous composers, like Mahler. Gustav Mahler is one of them, and most composers, Brahms included, would also conduct their works and conduct works of previous. And when you have had a master like Beethoven and everybody studies his music, when you come to compose your own music, I think there's always going to be that stamp that's going to stick. Just like for Beethoven himself, the mark and the stamp of Mozart and Haydn was quite strong, and it's very hard to maneuver out of that without recognizing that you're standing on the shoulders of greats. And that's a challenge that you always have to face, that you realize, oh, what else do I have to say? Well, I want to take your word for it. I want to say this, and I think that makes it really worthwhile. I want to talk a little bit about this, the trio for a second, because we haven't really talked that much about it. What are your impressions of this trio? We talked about the Beethoven Sixth Symphony with the Pastoral and all that. What are your thoughts on this? Now that we've seen and acknowledged, and this is the Fourth Symphony, that Beethoven was in deep love with nature. And all these things flow through, whether it's the flowing movements of a river or nature sounds. What are your thoughts on this trio? Does it give a sneak peek of what is to come in the Sixth Symphony, or do you think it's just in itself already something that's very Beethoven in conception?
To me, everything Beethoven wrote was very much Beethoven, but we got to keep in mind that every person goes through stages in life and development, and some of what we considered masterpieces, they didn't just appear out of thin air through some kind of inspiration, although inspiration, of course, is part of it, but the development of the technique and insight and experimenting is a huge part of it. I mean, composers spend enormous amount of time and attention researching and trying out and testing out and scratching and throwing away scraps of sketches and all of that. There is a period of development of Beethoven himself as a composer and person and everything, leading up to the fourth and then going from the fourth to the sixth. To us, they all exist in the same time frame. Because you can go and open one symphony or another, but Beethoven didn't know the Sixth Symphony is going to exist.
That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, that's
when he wrote the fourth.
That's something really remarkable to remember. As we are privileged in this modern world to be able to look back and say, wow, look at that influence. Well, you can hear that in number 9 that was first heard in, I don't know, number 3 or 4. But he didn't know this. He didn't know this was going to happen.
It didn't exist. He hadn't created it yet. So all those elements, when you look from the pedestal of the Sixth Symphony back onto the fourth, you go, oh yeah, there's a result. Well, but that's just a natural, organic process of the composer honing and sharpening their own images and what they want to say. And Beethoven always was fascinated with nature and the sounds of nature, so he put some of it in that symphony and this symphony and sonatas and everything, and every time he created an element or little segment towards that topic, dedicated to that topic of nature, he learned something in the process, and then so the next one was different. I want to say better because the technique develops, but not always better, it's just different. And then the cumulative experience of the composer working with the subject over and again eventually leads to something very special and memorable. Yeah. It's predecessor. Wow. Definitely that trio is a predecessor.
I think that is a very important lesson for us, what you just talked about, that we never know what we're doing now that will lead to our, further symphonies later on, to use that metaphor. And everything builds upon each, and it's important. And I think one of the things we talked about last episode was about how you see little Easter eggs throughout, whether the first movement or the third movement, or even just the very famous theme, bum, 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 and that's used so many times in some of Mozart's music and times before, but it somehow sneaks its way into finally becoming this finished work. And it's a great life lesson, how different people you meet or different projects you do or things you embark upon may just be the little seed that grows into something that flourishes later on.
Yeah, cherish every little experience, because that may be that golden nugget and the seed which will grow into something absolutely great.
And you just never know. It's sort of this thing where people talk about networking. You just never know who that person may lead to. But it's the same for every project and everything you decide to do. And I wonder, and I hope that this project leads to something amazing for whoever's watching, and it provides value for you as you explore this, and that this conversation was very useful to you. And I want to make sure we thank our team and our collaborators, you included, Dr. Anna, and New Media Productions, Virtual Concert Halls, Architects of Music, and of course the genius behind the narration and the storyboarding and everything that is the voice, of course, of this, the Larry Rapchak. Big hand to him for making this happen.
Yes, thank you, Lawrence, and thank you everyone who is collaborating on Beethoven Films projects and on many, many other projects which we have on display throughout the season. Check out our music and musicians from around the globe daily live show. Mm-hmm. And as always, we are looking for more collaborations. Our community has grown and is growing every day, and we would like to invite you to join it. If you like our spirit our mission, and we are on a mission to bring music and musicians from around the globe to everyone and make it all accessible and fun. And if you're interested, please visit our websites. You can see them on the screen, virtualconcerthalls.com, progressivemusicians.com, and soundexpressivecompetition.com, choreorchestra.com. There's a lot of projects and variety of those. Find your the one which interests you. Get in touch with us. We are always open to new connections and fostering and looking for those seeds and growing them.
There we go. Bring it all back together. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Anna, for this amazing time together. We have more to come. Of course, we have shows on Thursdays and Sundays, so make sure you continue to tune into those and to watch what we have next. Next time, we'll have part 9 of our Beethoven 4 documentary series. And until then, take care. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
See you then. Bye.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Espressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.